Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Drinkless World. This video is going to be a introduction and just a little checkup on everything that I own. For those of you who are not in the know, I currently own 2 snakes, these 2 right here, which we'll get to them in a bit, and 7 tanks, a 37, 29, 40 breeder, 20 high, 5 gallon, a Fluval Flex 15, and a 55. This video, sorry about that, clicked stop. This video is going to start with the snakes, because simply put, they both just ate, and I don't know if they'll even be able to be seen all that much, and I really don't want to bother them too much. And I said too much, way too much there. This tank is a 18 by 18 by 18 Zoomed tank, and it houses a male Kenyan sand boa by the name of Loverboy. Now, before we get to anything else, I would like to say I do know that compact UVB is not the best, but this is more just to be a light than it is to be UVB. At some point, I do plan on getting an actual UVB light strip or bulb and putting it over the back of this tank. But for now, I was able to get this through the deal that got me the tank, so I'm using this. Because if it works, it works. And frankly, Loverboy hasn't seemed to have any issue with it. But he also doesn't come up much unless he's hungry, so that's probably why he hasn't had an issue with it. If Loverboy is out, he is most likely going to be where he isn't, under the water bowl. Which most likely means he's somewhere in this dirt, because that's where he spends most of his day. Many people like to make fun of Kenyan sand boas for the fact that it's looking at a box of sand, but frankly, I think it just makes it more interesting for when you're able to actually find the damn thing. A snake, however, which is far easier to find, is the current inhabitant of this 36 by 18 by 12, though there are plans to move her eventually, because I have a feeling she will eventually get too big for this tank. It is probably my favorite animal in this room. My leucistic Texas rat snake by the name of Goog. She is an absolute sweetheart, and I just spooked the crap out of her. I'm going to put the lid back on now. She is an absolute sweetheart. Many people will rag on Texas rat snakes for being particularly nasty colubrids, but no snake I've ever interacted with has been as gentle as Goog has. Which, if you're curious, her name just comes from googly eyes. I know it's kind of a silly name, but frankly, most of my animals with silly names don't die. So, I give most of my animals silly names. But she is currently 3 foot, or about, 35 inches, so. And they tend to max at bare minimum in the 4 to 5 range. There's even chances of her getting to a horrifying 7-8 feet, but with the way she's been growing, considering she's over a year old now and not even 3 feet, she's most likely going to take a while before she gets there. So she'll at least be able to live in here for a pretty good amount of time. She runs at an 85 hot spot, and Loverboy sits at 93. This tank uses an Arcadia LED, or my bad, UVB bulb, and both tanks use deep heat emitters, as in my opinion they are one of the best ways to heat a terrarium. And, oh right, this tank usually will sit somewhere between 35 and 60% humidity depending on the time. Right now it's sitting at 34, but if it ever reaches 30 or lower, I always make sure to mist this tank. Where this tank usually sits in the 40 to 60 range. Usually I try to keep it in 50. Right now it's at like 43. Despite what you'd expect, Kenyan sand boas tend to like higher humidity, considering they come from like sandy soiled jungles in like Tanzania and Kenya. But yeah, that is the snakes. Next we have what might be the hardest tank in any to film. My 5-gallon, which is actually my oldest tank. This is a Marine Land Portrait and was the first tank I ever bought. Originally it was a beta tank, then it became a pea puffer tank, and now it is a shrimp tank. Inside of here, there is a pretty large snail population. Probably at least 30 of the Neocardina shrimp. Most of them are wild type, but there are a few cherries and even some like electric blue ones. Some pretty nice chocolates. They're very pleasant to watch. But there's the main stars of the show in this tank are a group of 5 red crystal shrimp, the legendary Cardina, and I've actually gotten, I think I have 2 females, and at least one of them has bared eggs, so hopefully we'll get more crystals at some point too. But for sure, the Neocardina will always have a higher number. They breed like rabbits, and I started off with 6, and I have way more than 6 now. There's very few places you can go in this tank where you won't find a baby shrimp. Though, one thing that you might be trying to find is a particularly cool inhabitant of this tank who is currently dangling on a piece of water lettuce is the Colombian giant ram's horn, which is a particularly exotic and really freaking cool ram's horn species that has this really nice speckled look with this giant yellow banded shell. And he does amazing in here. Honestly, I got him both because I love a good exotic snail, but also they eat plants. And if you can't see, this tank is pretty planted. And he's got plenty to eat in there. To which, after the 5-gallon, comes my second tank that I ever built. And in my opinion, one of my best. This is the Nano Community, a 20-gallon high that, despite the size of the tank, is home to 29 different fish. And yet somehow it doesn't look too crowded. This tank is filled to the brim with a whole slew of different species. There are a group of 6 pygmy corridoras, 5 white cloud mountain minnows, 2 females of which are of the gold morph, a group of wild type endlers, though I am not certain on what specific type of endler they are, but I believe it is just the bog standard common endler. Alongside them, all of them are male, by the way, I should probably make that clear. There are 3 guppies, who are all also male. One of them is a platinum albino. This one, who is named Spitfire, I don't know what he is. He was sold as a fancy guppy, and I can tell that he is some sort of fancy guppy endler hybrid, as many of his features look far more like the wild type endlers than they do the guppies. But I frankly have no clue what morph it is. So if you, whoever is watching this video, knows what morph or whatever this is, the specific of it, please let me know in the comments below. Like, just, this isn't even like me trying to get interaction. I really want to know what this fish is, because I've never quite seen something like it. And then also, all the way over here, in the hornwort jungle, oh, there he is a black Moscow. One beautiful boy. If you're wondering about the tears on their fins, that actually comes from a tank we will be talking about later, the 37, as the Emperor Tetras that were put in that tank, while they didn't nip anyone else's fins, the guppy fins were just too big for them to not bite. So I had to move them into here, and they have been doing, frankly, even better than they did in the 37. They actually look way better than they used to, as they used to have even worse nips on the fins, but they're almost fully healed back now. I mean, the Spitfire actually is completely healed. Along with the pygmy corridoras, there is a group of 3 sultan peppers. While this number may seem really small compared to the 6 pygmies, these fish are far bolder than the pygmy, and all 3 of them have been some of the first inhabitants in this tank. And they actually are surprisingly ballsy. We also have a red wag platy named Tomato. If my phone will focus. There we go. That's probably the best we're gonna get of him, because he is a very shy lad. Next to him, you can see one of the main stars of the tank, my keyhole cichlid. We also have a clown pleco. If you can kind of make him out. Oh, there you go, that's perfect. He hides, but oh boy, do I love him. One who hides a lot more and is in this shell right now is my South American bumblebee catfish. And then we have the two nano stars of the tank. A scarlet batis. Such character and such a tiny little body. He may be one of the hardest fish to see, but once you see him, you just can't take your eyes off of him. Then we have a dream fish of mine who loves to hide in the hornwort, my sparkling gourami. Such a beautiful fish. Really one of the more underrated options for gourami. Then we have one fish that I can't find right now, who is the bumblebee goby in this tank. If I remember correctly, it is a true freshwater bumblebee. Though I've had him for a pretty long time, a few months, and he has been thriving for me, so I think he's a normal, or sorry, he's a true freshwater, but I wouldn't quote me on that because I do not know my bumblebee gobies too well. But I do know how to take care of the one I have, and he is doing great. Other than him, there is my favorite fish in this tank, Toothpaste, who I can't find. Toothpaste is a female beta that I bought from a PetSmart. She has the heart of an angel and is one of the best fish I've ever interacted with. The only fish I've ever interacted with that has gave cichlids of any size a run for their money. But as you can probably see, she does have a very massive tumor on her back, and I have had her for, I'd say, at least half a year at this point. I'm hoping to get more than a year out of her, but thanks to the tumor, which is benign, I don't know how long she has. But frankly, I'm going to enjoy every day I have with her. There's just something about beta personalities that's just so great. Next, we get back to the big three of this room, starting with the 29, Goker's Den. Goker's Den is what I like to call a dither community tank, but it is also meant to sort of just be a stream tank. The tank's name refers to its main inhabitant, Goker, or Goker the Lip Ripper, a Netropolis cichlid, which used to live in my 40-gallon, but was an absolute psychopath that I had to rehome to this 29, which I luckily had on standby. Fortunately for me, these fish are actually a perfect size for a 29, though some might say they might be a little too big, as they max out at about somewhere between 5 to 6 inches. He is, as hateful as he is, patient enough to live with fish that are able to go with the flow and avoid him when he decides that they're too close to his hole. Though there are times where he will just leave them alone. He's a cichlid, and cichlids are really unpredictable when it comes to behavior. It's one of the great things about them. In this tank with him is my oldest swordtail, as I own 2. His name is Lollipop, a Sankey swordtail. At least that's what he was sold to me as. With him there are 4 rosy red minnows, which are, for those of you who don't know, because everyone obviously recognizes this fish, it is a color morph of the American fathead minnow. But most of you know these as the 8-cent fish you see at PetSmart next to comet goldfish. Well, personally, I think they make great pets on their own, too. Also in this tank are a group of neon dwarf rainbow fish. Just absolutely stunning fish that show the exact same personality as their giant cousins, also being Melitania species. And then, the newest inhabitants of this tank are a group of silver-tipped tetras. There are 2 albinos, which I'm hoping start to do better, and 4 wild types who are doing so great and really just give the tank a sense of character. The tank at the top, while being the larger of the 2, will be the one we go over first, as this tank has far more to talk about, and this tank I have already gone in length on in a video that will be posted around the same time as this one. This is the 40-gallon tank, the Central Emporium. It is a rainbow fish Central American cichlid hybrid tank, and it houses 3 Central American cichlids, a mixed group of 8 rainbow fish, and 1 pleco. The inhabitants are as follows: a convict cichlid, a firemouth cichlid, who really doesn't like the camera, a very sneaky and very large, at least compared to the other fish in the tank, Jack Dempsey, that the camera won't focus on. While oh my lord, while one might expect these 3 to not do all that great in a 40-gallon, being raised together and raised to where they'd be at certain size points, the 3 actually do quite well in this tank. There is sparring from time to time, and the sparring used to be significantly worse. But for the most part, it's just slight chasing around, whereas it used to be things like lip locking and fin tearing and, things that actually hurt the fish, where that is not really happening anymore. For the rainbow fish, there are 4 Murray River rainbows, all of which are female, 2 Blairie's rainbows, 1 male and 1 female, a singular male Goiter River rainbow, a pair of Boismani rainbow fish, as well as a swordtail and a blind cave tetra. The pleco, which is currently hiding somewhere I can't really see right now, is a rubber lip. If you watch the other video, later on, the rubber lip does show up, and if I end up seeing him, I might come back and put something in here. Then, last but not least for this room, we have the 37-gallon. The 37-gallon, or Project Mythic, is a tank which was designed to combine a bunch of different dreams of mine to create a community tank with. And the goal was to find a fish which could work together in that sense. This tank houses about 30 fish, and a lot of them are some of the biggest showstoppers in this room. And frankly, this tank just is amazing. I really love this tank. I love all of my tanks, but there are some drop dead hitters in this tank that we will go over now. For schooling fish, the main one that you're going to always see are the Black Emperor Tetras. You will also find spotfin hatchetfish and threadfin rainbowfish. The most noteworthy being a short body male by the name of Garavito, who has amassed a kill count of 5 threadfin rainbowfish. And as such, he is my little psycho. But oh boy, is he a pretty little psycho. And a dream come true. At the bottom of the tank, you will often find 2 true upside down catfish, that being Synodontis nigraventus, as well as, if I can find one, also real quickly, here's the other upside down catfish. Just thought I'd show both of them. As well as a group of 6 chocolate coolie loaches, which, while they are a lot more drab in color, in my opinion, are far cooler than normal coolie loaches. Though loaches in general are just really cool. Speaking of really cool, there's also 3 extremely, well, not really extremely, but exotic L-number plecos in here. In this hole hides Reggie, my L340, also known as the Mega Clown or Imperial Tiger pleco, a hypensistor species, that being a relative to the zebra pleco. Barian Sistris Bagani, L230? I don't remember the exact one as I do with the clown, or the Mega Clown. But this is the Blue Panac, which I am just honored to own. I mean, just, that is a gem, you know? And then hiding in the corner, because he hates me, my L144A, a lemon blue-eye bristlenose. The first exotic pleco I ever wanted. And my lord, is he a dream come true despite being the easiest to find of these 3. The last main 2 inhabitants of the tank are often the ones that I find catch people's attention, other than the hatchets and emperors. One of them is Apollo here, my beautiful triple red cockatoides, otherwise known as the dwarf cockatoo cichlid. And then my sunset thick-lipped gourami, a super underrated species, closely related to the dwarf gourami. Often, I will find the gourami and cichlid hanging out with each other, and it's great to see. Though this tank in general is just, honestly, a sight to see. And then lastly, we have the two that are in my bedroom, which we will start with the little guy, because there is literally one fish in this tank. This rooted beauty is my Lake Tanganyika tank. Oh my lord. My Tanganyika cichlid tank, which houses a singular female lyre-tail fairy cichlid and a crap ton of snails, two of which are gold rabbits. I think, yeah, here's one right here. The majority of them, though, are ram's horns and Malaysian trumpets. I adore this guy so much, and I love him dearly. But sadly, she gets overshown very badly by the other tank in the room. Though I just have to say, this is such a beautiful cichlid. And they really should be a lot more common. And then we have my personal favorite tank. My 55-gallon, the Cichlid Kingdom. This tank is home to 10 whole fish. Well, boy, are they some chunksters. The one you won't find, because he's almost always buried under this thick chunk of sand, is the banjo catfish. As cool as he is, he gets outstaged by a lot of fish in this tank, and most people will never even know that he's in here. But I love him, so I thought I'd shout him out. There are also two Asian species in here, one of which being this beautiful pearl gourami. Right now, he's not showing his true colors because he's calmed down, but when they flare up, they almost turn iridescent. And that head will get bright orangey red. And it is such a beautiful thing. Speaking of beautiful fish with red, the infamous red-tailed shark is also in this tank. And God, I love these. In terms of fish that have as much personality as a really, really personable cichlid, other than betas, this is the fish that really gets up there. They are very playful, though they are also very mean. So be wary of that when you choose a tank for them. Because, man, they will harass other fish when they want to. But that only leaves, other than our main stars, which I'll get to, the two plecos. Sadly, both bristlenoses are hiding right now, but I can at least show you one of them. This big old boy right here, who goes by the name of Larry and is a green dragon bristlenose. The other one, Bob, is a super red, and if he comes out, I'll show him. I'll also show this guy if he comes out, because you can barely see him. But that leaves the real stars of the tank, the 5 cichlids. And before we get to the main 2, let's go over the extra 3. Though they may be considered the extra, they are just as amazing. One of my favorite fish of all of my fish is Domino here, who is a pretty sizable platinum angelfish. He has got some amazing blues and oranges and a white that shines like a mirror with these beautiful like black stripes. He is such a gorgeous fish. And really all he does is he sits in this corner and just kind of chills. Along with that, along with the angelfish, you also have Daybreak here, who is a mouth-brooding severum, also known as the red-eyed severum. Not the same as your normal banded severum, however they practically have the exact same care. And then this ginormous electric blue acara, which I have raised since it was less than 1 inch. And he is so great. So personable. He's like a little water dog. Just such personable fish. If you want a fish that like is a wet pet, electric blue acara is like one of your best bets. Your biggest best bet though is this girl. This is Quasimodo, my blood parrot cichlid. And for the genetic abominations that blood parrots are, she is an amazing fish. She is so personable, and while she does have an attitude, she's not that aggressive. At least, not as aggressive as you'd expect for a Midas cichlid hybrid. In fact, you can kind of tell with the way she acts compared to many of the other fish that she's not from nature. It's almost like watching something that shouldn't be try and live in... What am I talking about? Oh my lord. Blood parrot. Awesome fish. Probably should be less of them made, but man are they awesome. And this one decided to pair up with this. This is Bojack. Geophagus steindachnery, also known as the red hump earth eater. In my opinion, my humble opinion, one of the best cichlids ever. And they are so stupidly underrated. They look so nice. I love them. And that was the whole video. We went through a couple bumps and blips, but for a singular recording, I think I did quite good. If you have somehow been watching all 39 minutes of this, thank you so much. And please subscribe if you like this type of content. I plan to make more in the future, and I will hopefully do a lot better than I am now. But we all gotta start somewhere. So I thought I'd make this introduction. Just so you know every animal that lives in a drinkless world. Have a good night.